Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here. This is the daily medicine transmission for Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. And the title of this transmission today is Fragmentation or Substantiation? ? We do have our moon in Taurus all day today, meeting Uranus in Taurus. Taurus is about substantiation. And also squaring Saturn in Aquarius, so we get some fixed square energy. And we also have a sun in Aries in a conjunction with Eris, the dwarf planet that is even further out than Pluto, also the goddess of chaos and discord. So the sun is meeting Eris today in Aries and also is going to be in a sextile with Mars. So we have some investment opportunity today with that energy. Not to mention the fact that Mars is also now in an opposition to asteroid Juno, now retrograde in Sagittarius. So there's a lot to talk about, as there is every day. We are in the most pivotal times imaginable for our species and this planet and the awakening of consciousness, not only for humanity, but really for this whole galaxy. So welcome back to my subscribers. Thank you for being part of this journey. You truly are the lifeblood of this channel. If you are new here, welcome. So great to have you here. And as always, when you interact with this content through your subscription, through your likes, through commenting on the video, sharing the video, that really does impact the algorithm and supports independent content creators like myself who are not sponsored by anybody and are really just throwing their hat in the ring of this, digital Wild West. So let's get into the information for today. Also, just two more announcements. Number one, if you go to the description box below, there is a link to my SubscribeStar profile for $3 a month now that you can have access to all of my astrology content exclusive to those subscribers. Of course, the daily medicine will always be offered here on YouTube and BitChute and whatever other platforms I decide to put this content on. But my astrology content will be exclusive to my SubscribeStar patrons. So you can go over there and subscribe for $3 a month and get weekly astrology, the new and full moon astrology, any kind of special event. And as we go along, there will be tier systems to offer more and more content for those subscribers. Also, the imagery for today's transmission video is again from SHUTTERMESHORT photography. I want to bring attention to this incredible person and their work because not only is their photography phenomenal, she has also done all of the design work for catalystenergies. Designing the logo was the basis for designing the website. So again, this photography that is part of the thumbnail image for this video is from SHUTTERMESHORT photography. You can access her Facebook and social media profile from the description box below. Okay, let's get right into this. So Venus is moving into the last degrees of Aries today, which means that she is going to return home tomorrow into Taurus. So we are, in fact, moving into a very substantiated energy. And today is very important for aligning with the cosmic rhythms as, a cord or a lifeline, because there is a lot of fragmentation today. So I want to look right at the chart. Let's just get right into it today and see here what we have to work with, because with the moon meeting Uranus, there is the potential here for basically picking up any and all manner of frequency, like a radio playing every single station simultaneously. So let's see here, make sure that we got what we want. All right, here we go. So here we are, today's chart. We're going to show the transits for this moment. As you can see, the moon is in exact conjunction with Uranus today in Taurus. So the altruism that is part of the Taurus energy, being directly connected to the natural world in a material sense. This is what Taurus represents. And altruism is directly connected to the recognition that we are all, in fact, made from the same stuff. We are all worthy of compassion and tender care. And the Red Cross nurse, the Sabian symbol for 10 degrees of Taurus, is the recognition that we are all deserving of this compassion and care. And regardless of what side we find ourselves on, the Red Cross nurse will administer this care. And so Uranus is the path of our collective awakening. It represents radical shift, this wanting to break out and be free. It is the ruler of Aquarius. And so there is also this outside of the box thinking. This is the collective third eye. And so the pathway of our awakening is constantly being stimulated through this transformational and radical shifting in our material world. And as the moon meets Uranus today, our emotional landscape, our intuitive channel, our feelings, our subconscious realm, right? The void within us. When we meet Uranus today in a transit like this, again, there is the potential for a radical change in perspective. There is deep and very quick, like lightning, psychic revelations that can happen, and also incredible amount of irritation with not being able to control the environment. And so as the moon meets Uranus in this moment right now, there is so much that we can awaken to within us in this moment, especially the reality of the fact that we're all human. And we all deserve care and we all deserve compassion regardless of where we find ourselves. And this is really part of ultimately the Pleiadian aspect. And, you know, I talked about this yesterday with somebody, and this came through in the transmission yesterday as well, the difference between compassion and empathy, because empathy is really being a wide open vessel to feel into another person's experience. And without real mastery of this empathy, we leave ourselves open to being gaslit and gaslighted, however you want to say that. We leave ourselves open to exploitation by those narcissistic tendencies that we all hold within us. We all hold the narcissist and we all hold the empath on some level. So when the empaths, who are really very strongly connected to the Pleiadian starseed traits, we do leave ourselves open to feeling into the experience of others. And if we are not mastering our boundaries around this, we do leave ourselves open to being exploited, because the narcissistic tendency is to not really take responsibility for the self or anything that the self has engaged in, and tends to bypass a lot of that shadow work and put it on others. And so this is really what happens with the empaths that have not mastered their boundaries or their ability to be an empath. They tend to take on the emotional experiences and discomfort of the narcissist who seems to not be able to handle the reality of facing their own shadow. And so they are constantly putting it off emotionally on the empath. And so we can really feel the difference today between this empathy and compassion. Compassion is recognizing the human experience of suffering, right? Compassion is being aware and holding space for other people to feel their feelings and be in their own feels. That is compassion, because we've all been there. We all can relate to suffering. It's the empath that really struggles because they take on the emotional energy of somebody else's suffering. In a lot of ways, will take it and try to transmute it for somebody else so that they don't have to feel it. But the thing is, you don't have to feel it as an empath. That is the real mastery of that energy. So today, as the moon meets Uranus, there is the potential, like I said, for picking up on every single signal out there. And this is where the fragmentation can really come into play. But we also have a lot of opportunity today to substantiate and crystallize our own inner fulfillment with this new moon that we talked about, that happened on the 11th, the ability to crystallize our inner guru and our inner fulfillment. And when we do that, it provides a template that not only shields us, but doesn't allow other people's experience into our field and then take it on as their own. But there could be some agitation. There's definitely fragmentation, as we're going to see in the intuitive reading, that is really going to, in some ways, force us to, it's really going to force us into the art of alchemy within us. So, as I said, Venus is now, is soon today going to come into that last degree of Aries. She is now in a conjunction not only with the Andromedan galaxy, so Andromedan starseeds are being activated right now, especially embodying that energy. So, if you know you're an Andromedan starseed, this is a time where you can pull that in and embody that in the material. She's also in a conjunction with fixed star Alrisha. So I want to show you this real quick. So here's Alrisha right here at the chord in the constellation of Pisces. This is the knot that holds what is otherwise a very nebulous and watery type of energy in Pisces, right? We've talked about the Pisces energy. We just went through a dark moon in Pisces. And so this knot, this moment here is like a lifeline. And this is where Venus is at today. And in this moment, it allows us to attune to the cosmic rhythms and give us a grounding cord or a knot to connect, connect to what is otherwise, like I said, very nebulous and not something that we can really, we're so close to substantiation, but we have to, in order to manifest into real form, we also have to be able to attune ourselves to the cosmic rhythm in vibration and frequency in order to align with and draw to us this substantiation. So there's so much fragmentation that's in the chart today as well, especially with Eris right in conjunction with the sun today too, that Venus passing this point today is our lifeline. And our lifeline is being able to attune to not the fragmentation, but to the cosmic rhythm, to something much more vast and beautiful than just what's going on right here in our immediate environment. And with Eris so connected to everything happening right now, the chaos is the opportunity to crystallize, and Venus is allowing us right now to actually be this knot, right? This lifeline, this cord that connects these seemingly opposite energies that Pisces represents, right? The fish in the yin yang position. Okay, so this is really cool and really helping us today, because there's a lot of things that are not helping us today, or certainly providing challenge. Let's put it that way. Something else to consider today is that, like I said, the sun is later today going to come into a conjunction with Eris, the asteroid Eris, and also in a sextile, as you see here, to Mars in Gemini. So this is an investment opportunity. So when the sun meets Eris, we have this moment where we can simultaneously exist within the chaos as this brilliant point of light, that two things exist, just like that knot or that lifeline, that point of connection in the constellation of Pisces, where Venus is today, our embodiment, what and who we value. It's very palpable with Venus, and she is still in the underworld, meaning we don't see her at night because she's traveling so close to the sun. So, but the fulfillment of who we are, the sun, right? Our inner sun, our inner solar energy, the expression of who we are at our highest potential, is meeting Eris, and we can be this brilliant point of light amidst the chaos, and it can exist at the same time, because the chaos is really how we will triumph. Eventually it will teach us how to triumph over the chaos. And this sextile to Mars today is an investment into some type of action, where Mars represents our action and actualization of who we are, our subjective experience. This connection today, this investment, this sextile to Mars in Gemini is actually going to allow us to act on something that seems very counterintuitive at first, right? Because we want to expand and expand and expand, but really the action that Mars is providing, the action that Mars can deliver on today is about pruning back, right? Is about pruning back all of those extraneous, distracting thoughts that are really drawing our energy away from the specific stalks and stems and flowers that we actually want to grow. So anybody that's ever, if you're into gardening, horticulture at all, you know that pruning is an essential part of cultivating whatever it is you're growing, right? So if you let things run wild, right, and you let it all be wild, and there is certainly a time and space for that, but if you are trying to really get the most out of what you're growing, you prune and you cut it back. And this is the way that we triumph over entropy, is that we don't allow ourselves to get pulled in all directions and have our energy be dissipated. We prune back so that the plant of our own growth, our soul and our spirit, is able to direct its energy and its resources to those aspects that are going to give us the most, that are going to cultivate the most. So this investment in the chaos, in the midst of the chaos today, is going to stimulate action in order to cut back on the distraction, okay? And again, I said it is seemingly counterintuitive because we have the sense that we want to keep expanding and expanding, but really sometimes we have to cut back on what is really draining our resources. And with Mars in Gemini, it's about our thoughts, our ideas, the communication, the data, the information that's coming in. If we are distracted, if we are fragmented, right? If our energy is fragmented, and we are, allowing all of these extraneous things to draw our energy into directions that lead nowhere, then how are we really going to manifest what it is that we truly desire? Because I will tell you, just be mindful of that. Be mindful of that, because anything that serves to split your perspective, put you on one side or the other, in an emotional way, right? We are still in this realm of the Orion starseed pattern here with Mars. So it's about mastering our willpower, self-discipline. That solar plexus chakra is really the frequency that the Orion starseeds are most aligned with. And if we can align with that, right? If you are an Orion starseed, or you know that there are Orion starseeds, or you can just even put the intention out there to resonate with that particular energy of the Orion starseed, we can learn to master our willpower, learn to master our self-discipline, so that we can engage with the spectrum of information without getting distracted and fragmented and pulled all over the place, because there are so many psychological operations that are there to do just that. And sometimes we think that just because a stream of information confirms our bias, it's true. But really, if it is splitting you, if it is serving to split you from other, right? Remember where Uranus is? Altruism. We're all human beings. The moon meeting Uranus today, we're going to get a very direct, intuitive connection here to this if we allow it to. But anything that splits us, anything that, any information, any media source that is there to split us, even if we agree with it on some level, it is worth considering that maybe that's not truth, and maybe it's there to keep us fragmented. Now, the bifurcation is certainly very real, and that is something that we have to accept as we move forward, but that doesn't have to be embodied within us. And there are a lot of psychological operations that serve to continue to do that, and they harness that energy. Okay. And so there is a square also today, with the moon in, Taurus, a fixed square to Saturn in Aquarius. And so we want to mobilize ourselves, right? We have baggage, and we are willing to carry that to a certain extent, but we do need to, we're going to have to contend with and face off and square off with Saturn, which is very difficult, right? There's a lot of disappointment and a lot of bitterness and frustration when the moon is going to square Saturn in general. But Saturn is giving us the tools and the instruments in order to actually be able to see what's coming, to measure what's happening now in order to predict on some level what's happening in a natural causal fashion. So again, we are holding quite a bit and we are going to substantiate, but we got to be very clear with ourselves. What is it we are going to substantiate? Because if we allow ourselves to stay fragmented, I assure you that is what is going to substantiate. And when Venus comes into Taurus tomorrow, wow, it is really going to be very palpable. Again, if we're going to embody that, and Venus is coming home to Taurus. And so it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be like this clear mountain stream that we are embodying and that we are experiencing in our relationships and our material world. But we have to be clear with ourselves and not allow the fragmentation to be what we take into this moment. Okay. So incredible opportunities today, also incredible fragmentation. And let's look actually at the, reading for today, because that is going to also show us, give us some insight on what we are working with today. So, some players that have already come out. We have the Light of the World here that came out, that is important. And, we do see at the root of things, the One of Forces, the Akashic Field, the fragmentation, right? The fragmentation that's very strong. And you know, this causal factor of the Queen of Swords coming into the moment is, you know, there's a certain amount of intelligence and strong dominance of intellect, but off with your head, right? Off with your head. That's coming into the present moment where that Four of Cups reversed. We're sliding right into that Five of Cups, that disappointment. The luxury of emotional stability is getting flipped on its head, and is on its way out even more so. Ultimately, where we are headed here is the alchemy, right? The dissolving and combining that the Sagittarian element represents. And even though our South Node is in Sagittarius, and Juno is in Sagittarius, now retrograde, there is momentum coming from this place we've already been, which is the art of alchemy. So let's look at all of this stuff one piece at a time, shall we? The Queen of Swords, right? Off with our heads. She is the queen of the thrones of air, and you can see that she is on her throne in the air. She's got the sword in one hand, she's got somebody's head in the other, and she is bare-chested, suggesting that that she is vulnerable and open, but she is above everything, which is why she feels and allowing herself to bare her heart, to bare that aspect of herself. She's on a throne, she's up in the clouds, and she is the mother of the air. The queen is the water element, the mother of the air. So not only can she transfer and reflect, she's also able to form and create, right? The air element is our manifestation power of the mind. So there's a strong dominance of intellect here, almost to the point where there's nothing else. And there's an idealism here that she represents because she is on her throne up in the clouds, and she doesn't really have to directly connect to, in an earth way, the consequences of her actions. She's just cutting the head off and off she goes, right? So there is a risk of living kind of idealistically outside of the realm of reality here. And she can be very sensitive to interference and disturbance, which is, again, why she kind of uproots herself and goes as far and transcendent as possible above everything. But there is an independence and a freedom of mind that comes with this, without the density of the earth and without the fire and passion of the wand's energy, right? She is able to emotionally reflect, but at the same time, she is able to create from the manifestation power of the air. So ultimately, the causal factor coming into this moment here is us as this Queen of Swords, or somebody in our life that's represented by this energy that is just, just separating our head from the rest of us and floating away, right? And so off with our heads, right? Off with our heads. And the fragmentation and the idealism to float away is also very strong, but she does reflect and transfer that water energy. She mirrors what's going on as well. So as we bring this energy into the moment, or it's brought in with us, we have the Four of Cups. This is the moon in Cancer, luxury. We've talked about this before. This has come up very recently. It's a very temporary moment of structure and form. There is maternal and secure and safe love and protection, but there's no risk involved. Now, the fact that it is reversed in this moment suggests to me that not only are we off with our heads, right? Some person, us or somebody in our life coming in and just like separating the head from the rest of us, and then being on this idealistic pedestal in some ways. Oh man, like I said, we are sliding right into that Five of Cups, that disappointment. In the heart of the moment, that luxury is well on its way out. And we don't feel very protected, do we? We don't feel like safe and secure. But when there's when there's no risk, there's no freedom. And so this, as much as it's a difficult situation to be in emotionally, we also, the Queen of Swords is really part of this equation, in that she does represent the water element here, but also with the intellect that is allowing us to at least see it from a perspective up here, as our cups are getting turned over and spilled out. But we already knew this was coming, because this security is a temporary moment. It is a luxury to have this level of protection and containment that Cancer represents when the moon is there. So not an easy place to be. So the One of Forces at the root of us, subconsciously, the core of our energetic axis, right? The spinal cord in and of itself, the core here, with the One of Forces reversed. This is, in fact, the fragmentation, agitated energy. The Akashic field is the field of potential from which everything has come and ever will come, right? This is where we are able to manifest from, because it is just a field of potential. So when it's reversed like this, fragmentation, agitated energy, worry and panic that is splitting our energy. And there is plenty of this with chaos involved, right? With Eris involved, there is a lot of worry. There's a lot of panic, because we can't control a chaotic situation. So it's important that we rein in the emotional intensity to stop picking up all of the static, especially when the moon meets Uranus. This is right now very much about not picking up the static, but it's very difficult not to with Uranus and the moon in a conjunction. So the field is full of potential solutions. So if we are in a situation here where we find that our access to information, the emotional energy that we are engaged in some way is really just reinforcing the problem over and over and over, then we're not really going to get in alignment here. This is the field of potential solutions. And that solution that is represented by Uranus and the moon meeting Uranus today is in that we are all human, and we all deserve compassion, and we all deserve care. And if we can embody that archetype of the Red Cross nurse to ourselves and to others, that doesn't mean being open empathically necessarily. That is helpful when you are working with people to understand their perspective and to do energy work with them. But compassion is different. And it allows people to experience their own experiences while holding space for them in a safe way. So the field of potential solutions is here, but where we are rooted right now is a lot of fragmentation, okay? And where this leads to, as the luxury of our emotional security is dumping all around us, we see the views of the ego, the Four of Roses. So we have the Four of Cups. We have the Four of Roses. Now this is at the top of our awareness here. The views of the ego, you can see really clearly what's going on here is this individual is only seeing himself in the mirror, despite being surrounded by his entourage and his cohorts. So thoughtless and selfish and self-absorbed. But really, remember, the ego is a protector, and it is there to protect the psyche from from being split open by the shadow and having to face the shadow. I mean, this is the narcissist right here, only seeing themselves in the mirror and being totally in love with themselves. That is where narcissism has come from. It's the inability to see that anybody else exists. And so when we're fragmented, when our emotional security is dissipating, it's very easy in this moment to, especially when we are, in some ways transcending the situation intellectually without being completely, it's if we are not stroking a beard that I don't have. The ego is protecting our consciousness, and in some ways we will, the causal reality here, the causal factor is kind of just to float above it all and not be engaged in it. And in some ways that is good when we're showing compassion. In other ways, this is not so good when we have to deal with ourselves. The Four of Roses, we, in our conscious awareness and our attention is focused on taking care of our, being totally self-absorbed. And we also have the Five of Keys along with this, the wishes fulfilled, but also reversed. So we may feel that our dreams are elusive. This goes directly along with this views of the ego, because we're just thinking about what we don't have. We're just thinking about what we need or what we want or what's, best for us. And of course, self-care is absolutely important, but we are talking about these larger constructs here. And if we are only focused on what we don't have, then we tend to become narcissistic and only see ourselves in the mirror and get this tunnel vision, right? And so it's important that we have to still work. But at the top of our awareness, with this fragmentation, with this lack of emotional security, it becomes pretty clear that we get really focused on what we don't have. We get self-absorbed. We only see ourselves. And this really does serve an agenda that is someone else's, okay? Now, all of this is an incredible learning opportunity, because ultimately where this is going to bring us is to the art of the alchemy. Because we do have to not only bring these two opposite pieces together, whatever they are for us, and provide a balance as we see. We also have to purify those aspects. And it does tell us that sides that we had previously ignored or not dealt with need to be lived out in order to really come to an understanding, in order to really come to a realization. That is what the Sagittarian archetype represents, is the realization, the big picture, the truth. And that comes from understanding. Understanding comes from having an awareness of both sides of the situation, not just ours, or not just focused on our own reflection in the mirror, although that, eventually we all have to come to terms with that. But it's usually in our relationships that we are mirrored, which is why that is such important soul work. So sides that are previously ignored need to be lived out, and we need to leave a fixed position in order to actually come to an understanding. So ultimately, all of this today is leading us to the potential for this Sagittarian art of alchemy, where we leave a fixed position, where we go to another side that we have been previously ignoring because we're too busy looking at ourselves in the mirror and focusing on what we don't have because of this emotional insecurity that is now happening, and the fragmentation in the signal because of Uranus and the moon coming together. But ultimately, everything is leading towards this alchemical process of merging and turning something plain into something precious. That is what the spiritual alchemy is for. So there's so much potential here if we see it that way. Just like with Meaning of the Chaos. So here's the light of the world. Remember, this was part of our transmission yesterday as well. The higher self comes a knocking, and the fragmentation that we're feeling, and the static, just like a bunch of radio stations all at once, because we're panicked, because we're worried, because we're focused on what we don't have, because we're just looking at ourselves in the mirror and trying to appease our ego, because the ego is just trying to protect us. I mean, this is why being able to transcend the ego in our spiritual work is so important. Not to discount it, not to denigrate it, to just see it for what it is and realize that it's part of being in 3 dimensions, right? So here's the light of the world. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. And then on top of that, we have Pueo, or the Hawaiian owl. Your ancestral spirit guides are offering you guidance. So this has been something, the star seeds are being activated big time right now. The last couple days have been incredible group activations. I've been involved in it. Other people are reporting it to me. And so be prepared. There's more of this coming that those of us on this pathway are going to get offerings of guidance. And it's going to be the light of the world, right? Our higher self knocking at the door. So if we're fragmented though, we can't get into that message. We can't actually tune into the guidance if we're fragmented, if we're worried, if we're panicked. Okay, if we're not focusing on solutions, but we're focusing on problems. And if we continue to focus on problems, we're never going to focus on solutions. So be willing to acknowledge this so that you can get to this laser point focus and allow the guidance to come in so that we can manifest solutions rather than to stay fragmented and split apart. And so there is so much guidance that is trying to come in. And for many people it is, and for others it's a real struggle right now. And so again, if we need to not be distracted by what we don't have in our own egos and our worry and our panic so that this guidance can come in. Now, when it comes to this, here's the War of the Roses, right? This is the storm clouds are gathering. You can see that right here. These 2 factions that had one time been the same are now split apart, okay? Humanity, right? Being split apart, being divided intentionally. That is the psychological operation, to convince one side that the other side is the enemy and vice versa. So it's important that we realize this, okay? And this can, again, help with the emotional focus on just ourselves and the focus on what we don't have. So there's a battle within our own hearts. There's a battle within a relationship. There's a lack of reciprocity maybe that we are seeing. Of course, with the views of the ego, then narcissists can't be reciprocal. It's only about them all of the time. And they will put on every mask imaginable in order to continue that. There is an impasse here, okay? So you have to I would say that in order to address this, you have to make plans to leave the battlefield, right? If you continue in this battle, you will just reinforce this view of the ego within ourselves and other people. You will reinforce this focus on what we don't have as opposed to possible solutions. And it's really keeping us from listening to our intuition. We're caught up in the drama. We're caught up in the passion of it. We're caught up in the bifurcation in and of itself and letting it and allowing it to fragment us because we're worried, we're panicked, we're like, what is going on? There's chaos everywhere. Make plans to leave the battlefield. And it's not to say that we should just sit back and eat our popcorn. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that energetically, if we continue to engage in the bifurcation as if it is the only reality, then it will continue to manifest in that way. It is about stepping back and seeing things from a much bigger picture. Ooh, that Queen of Swords, you know, she is able to do that, right? She's able to transcend the situation in a way that allows a much broader perspective and reflect back as the queen, right? The water element. And we're talking about the roses here, the 4 of roses, the 6 of roses, the 4 of cups. These are all emotional energies that are really impacting us. Now, the Falcon is really, you know, it says act on the opportunity that's before you, because the Falcon is has this incredible sight. So I would, again, look at it from the perspective of this laser sharp focus and sight that a predatory bird is able to hold. And then when it's time to make commit to something, take an action, you know exactly what it's going to be and you won't hesitate. But this is really speaking to our ability to not only transcend the situation, but to have such a sharp eye to see even the most minute detail, so that when it's time to go in for the kill as a predator, right? You don't have to think about this literally, then we will be able to do so. But you can't do that without this perspective, and you can't do it without this embodiment of this sharp, very focused perspective that a falcon has. And when they are ready to go in, they don't think about it. It's not emotional or anything. It is just, there's my prey. I'm going for it. This is the moment. Okay. And you can, if we want to be able to do this, we do have to embody this energy of the falcon. That would be my perspective. Perhaps acting on things is going to be coming in the future, but from what I am seeing right now, before we can even act on it, and you have 2 birds here. You have the falcon, and then you a predator, and you have an owl, also a predator. One that is diurnal, right, awake during the day, and an owl who is nocturnal, who sees things in the darkness. So we have this also, again, this perspective of these two different perspectives of light and dark. So the darkness within us, and in the shadow, in the void, where our guidance comes from, in the stillness and the silence, and then one that is able to see in and be awake and have clear vision, so that we are not getting caught in the drama of the war that is really being perpetrated by those who stand to benefit from us being like this. So interesting perspective for today. So that really is the transmission for today. I don't think I can expand on that anymore, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're interested in a reading, energetic support through Reiki or shamanic energy work, or if you want to know your starseed origins and how it's impacting you in your life right now, you can go to catalystenergies.net and check out the different services and book a reading through there. You can reach me through email. I'm on Facebook and Telegram. That's all in the description box below. And take really good care of yourselves today, guys. You know, the fragmentation is very real. The struggle is very real. And, you know, meditation, prayer and meditation are really important right now. And that is not saying that we are being, what's the word I'm looking for? That's not to suggest that we are not doing anything, but this inner work is actually doing something, and it's important that we do it, because how we express ourselves outwardly is a direct reflection of what is going on inside, and that directly connects to this new moon and this lunar cycle of the inner fulfillment as a result of the inner alchemy that we all have the opportunity to engage in. And it's through that inner alchemy that we are really going to move through this awakening process and the evolution of humanity on this planet. Okay, guys, I love you. Take good care of yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.